Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Study 13 of Unfolding Consciousness, Exploring the Living Universe and the Intelligent Powers. These are the latent powers that exist within you, okay? Does that sound familiar to some of you? It should. Exploring the living universe and intelligent powers in nature. Nature is the church. You are the temple. This is all about you, okay? Nature and humans. And nature does not just mean your backyard or the beach or the mountains. Nature is the ever-expanding universe. So there's more to that than just people think nature, oh, I'm just going to go outside. Yes, it's outside. Yes, it's the natural world, but it is everything. And that is church. That is sacred. So we're going to go into that. We're in Book Study 13, and I wanted to start this off really quick with just an idea to encompass what this is all about. True happiness is found by you walking your own spiritual path, okay? You are the path. You are the path. It's not outside of you. You are the path, and you become the destination on your way. Does that make any sense? I hope so. A lot of people trip out when they hear the word spiritual, and I don't blame you, because you automatically think of the New Age movement or religion and spiritual. The word spiritual, people are like, I'm not spiritual. Well, are you breathing right this second? I'm breathing. Spirit, spirare. Look it up. It's Latin. The word spirit in Latin means to breathe. So if you are breathing, then you are spiritual. It's interesting to think of that. As you travel the path, you become the destination. We are still in the Proem, and before I go forward, it's like page 41 in little Roman numerals, I had a question for you. What is your definition of consciousness? Honestly, what do you think of when you think of consciousness? Do you only think of the brain? Do you think of thoughts? Do you think of emotions? What is consciousness to you? And also, how can I help make these book studies a little bit more interactive, improve them? How can I improve these book studies for you? Please leave your comments down below. I would like to interact with you. I've thought of going live, but I'd like to keep these little bite-sized if I can. So I'm not sure. I'm just doing this because I believe in what is in this text. This is not just any text, and we're going to cover that in this little lesson. Why do we need another book on metaphysics and science and religion and philosophy? Why do we need another text like that? This is not just any text written down by Dr. Edi Bilimoria, who, in all of my experience, he's ego-free. This is not about Eddie. You don't see his face on the cover of the book like you do a lot of these texts. It's not just about Eddie. It is not just about me. It is not just about any one particular source. It is about the Perennial Philosophy, which means unending, eternal. These ancient wisdoms, these archaic truths that have been around since the beginning of time, since before time began. Okay, this is a collection of them with all of the links so you can study further. Over 1,300 pages in 4 volumes, currently only available in this hardback 4-volume set, which, by the way, I've worked with a publisher, which is Shepherd Walwyn, to get a 20% discount if you'd like to have your library get a copy of it. It is a reference manual that is for life, living here on planet Earth. And there will be ebook versions. There will be audiobook versions coming. But until then, I feel I would be incredibly irresponsible if I didn't do something. As a former radio broadcaster, I'd like to lend my voice to something far more purposeful. I will tell you that the application of these teachings has changed my life in such a humongous way that when I found them, I started to voice them on this channel. And the Voice of the Silence is on here. Light on the Path is on here. The 14 Lessons is on here. It's all free. These book studies are free. And Eddie, I tell you what, he has a real job. We've sold maybe 70 of these. It's not about the sale of the book. It's about what's in the book and the application of the teachings inside. So again, we're in the Proem, and there's little post-its in the book that help you study as you move along. Our post-its this week are, does science provide adequate answers? And the inner state of a person counts far more than the outer conditions, the physical world, the physical appearance, the physical world. The reason and justification for this work. At this particular time, readers may justifiably ask three pressing questions. This is Edi's quote here. Is there anything to replace the scope and power of science, the study of the physical world? In any case, doesn't science nowadays provide all the answers? And if not just yet, when will it do so? Soon, given the enormous strides that it is now taking? Number two, aren't there enough books, ranging from the popular to the scientific to the academic, not to mention the obscure on this kind of subject already? So why do we need so many more books of this kind? What purpose does it serve over and above all the others? What makes unfolding consciousness so special? We're going to cover that. And what message is this work trying to convey? If science won't eventually provide us with the answers that we seek, then what on earth will? In answer to the first question, we have only to look at the unhappy, and you can relate to this, unhappy and frustrated condition of most of us here on earth, and all of the widespread suffering, to realize the disastrous effects of us not having any kind of foundational philosophy or moral compass in life beyond the religions that divide us. Science and technology on their own are faulty substitutes. They hold out the promise of a perfect world of endless virtual possibilities, which thus putting many of us at the mercy of our passions and our lower natures, which would be our vices. That is selfishness and lust and greed and pride, rather than us looking for something else, a higher principle to guide our lives. The chaos of our world at hand is made so much worse by negative journalism. It should convince all of us, it really should, other than the most superficial of us and the shallow-minded of us, and there's lots of us there, how ridiculous our money-driven society truly is. This is a material-minded approach to life, particularly in the well-to-do West. It has been broadcast and hammered home by the media and politicians as the ultimate ideal to aspire to be wealthy, to have an I, me, my physical world only. A higher philosophy must obviously be based on wisdom and love and truth, not plain and practical ideas and beliefs. This is the reason why not one of the sages and philosophers, the avatars, the teachers of all the East and the West, all over the world, the helpers of humanity from ancient times, they never allowed the self-realization of truth to be tarnished by the promise of an earthly paradise. They realized that true happiness does not come to those that are not on a spiritual path. Nor did they waste their time and energy inventing fancy, highfalutin, high-tech technologies or social strategies or business models for dealing with all of the earthly dramas and selfishness and bitterness of the world's politics, economics, and physical conditions at their own level. Each one of these teachers recognized with perfect insight that it is the stubborn and selfish and unremorseful humans all over the world who are spiritually deficit that are solely responsible. We are responsible for the endless evil, cruelty, and suffering. And so it is then through us, we humans, and through our characters, the way we think, the way we act, the way we react. It's not our property, possessions, or God forbid our titles, that the way must be found in order to change the world and save the world by changing ourselves. And this would be the way of truth, wisdom, love, by transforming ourselves, the transformed human. None of these helpers of humanity, these avatars, ever preached that we must live in material poverty or live like monks. They never said that. You need to be in and of the physical world. They were extremely practical, and they understood the value of living and thriving here on earth in the material physical plane. But they always, and all of them, always taught the same thing. Evils result from ignorance of our true spiritual nature, the ignorance of self. That is the self with a capital S, the higher self, which is also part of our lower self, which is our body and our personality. And even though this knowledge of the inner spiritual life was taught mainly through the intellect by speaking to people, to the minds, except for the deeper message reserved for a few dedicated students. There is symbolic and metaphorical nature in the perennial philosophy, in the sacred texts. There's symbolism there. That enough alone can explain the true nature of life and the means for self-realization, to understand and know who we truly are. True happiness depends on this realization, and it's not going to come from anywhere else. And this depends primarily on our inner condition and the way we think. And we pay attention to the mindfulness. Remember, the state of our lives is a reflection of the state of our minds. There are happiness programs popping up all over. Remember, pay attention, mindfulness, happiness, meditation, which comes before the material and economic factors in our lives. Okay, Action for Happiness was founded by the Dalai Lama back in 2010 here in the UK, and they made a pledge to create more happiness and less unhappiness in the world around me. That's really all you have control over, the world around you. Action for Happiness has launched happiness cafes all over the country, many in rundown areas. In America, a similar effort was launched. It's called Project Happiness, with a following of like 1.6 million, and these movements are growing. But happiness can't come from outside yourself, but at least we are trying. So what is the deeper message we are conveying here in this work? And I say we, meaning Edi and these ancient teachers. I'm just the broadcaster. Clearly, the more we know ourselves, the happier we will be. It is no surprise that these movements of happiness within, of looking for happiness within and being kind, is being shut down and trolled. They're saying the sad truth about the action for happiness is that it's not inside of us. It's coming from economic inequality and exterior conditions like poverty. But this disagreement is a typical one. And this argument is an unpractical approach to psychology, one that focuses far more on our cultures and our environment rather than the most important thing, and that is the personal individual. Happiness will not come from outside yourself. It's not going to come from reading this book. It will come from applying what's in the book or any of the books that resonate with you, like The Voice of the Silence or whatever. The texts are endless. They've been coming through since the beginning of time. This collection I recognize as one of the most powerful for our time. It has everything in it. It is explained, and it will be here for a long while. And there are links that will take you to all of the exterior sources, the Theosophy, H.P. Blavatsky, Manly P. Hall, Albert Einstein, Isaac Newton, Paul Brunton. They're all in here. The teachings are here. The religions are in here. The philosophies are in here. The science is in here as well. For God's sake, look, exploring the living universe, okay? Nature is the universe. It's alive. It is you. You're not separate from it. And the intelligent powers in nature and humans, that's you. It doesn't mean intellect. It doesn't mean what you can academically study or know as an individual. It is all about the universal, unending consciousness that created everything, created us as well. Would you like to learn more? Good. I hope to see you here next week. I know these are tiny little numbers now, and that's okay. When I was in radio, we used to worry a lot about that. But the thing is, you show up for one, you show up for 100,000. I am here because I believe in this. I want you to be able to have access to these teachings. You don't have to buy the book. If you want to refer it to your library, great, they can get 20% off. There will be ebook versions available, and we're going to be doing these book studies until I can no longer speak. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Please, if you stayed this long, thank you. Drop a little line down below. What does consciousness mean to you? What can we discuss? I'll talk about them. I'll write to Edi, and we can either bring him in or he can come up with the response and we can get him on here if you wish, or I'll give the verbal response to the best of my understanding as a student. We can study together. That's the thing. There's nobody that's in charge here except you and what you do with these teachings. I love you very much, and I will see you next week.